Hello friends and welcome to my channel. My name is EJ Marino and I'm going to be diving in to the brand new Disney released 20th Century Fox made brand new X-Men movie that's actually from like 3 years ago called The New Mutants. So, diving into the New Mutants is a weird thing. They didn't screen this for critics. We all had to, basically go out and see it ourselves. This is also a movie that has been long delayed. Not just the delays this year, but from years ago. So, this is a very complicated film to go into. I mean, there is critics who are even refusing to review this movie just because it's like, hey, we're basically telling you have to go out to the movie theaters to watch it. That's not fair for critics to do if they don't feel comfortable. I'm one of the critics who don't really feel comfortable telling people to see a movie if they want to. Thankfully, I don't think New Mutants is a movie that you need to rush out into the theaters to see. Honestly, after watching it, I am more confused why this wasn't released straight to Disney+. New Mutants follows a group of kids who are locked away at a special facility to help their powers. These are kids who are struggling with their mutants ability, and they are here to maybe, hopefully, get a cure for it. But it's run by a shady organization that doesn't really like them and is doing things to hurt them. It's a pretty basic plot. I will say on the X-Men side of things, this is pretty new. We had a little bit of the let's get rid of the mutants with the cure stuff in X-Men The Last Stand, but this is the first time we've really dived in to this side of the X-Men universe, which I really enjoy. But if you look at this in the grander scheme of supernatural horror stories, this is a pretty well-worn story, and that's where this kind of hurts me a little bit, because we have good things that are here. This feels like an homage to Dream Warriors and to Buffy, but if you are big fans of things like 80s slashers and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, this feels very kind of been there, done that. And that's kind of how I felt the whole time. There was this kind of coming of age story as well. I didn't know much about the director Josh Boone before, but quickly researching him, he directed The Fault in Our Stars, which was a big, you remember when that trend of sick girls fall in love with a boy kind of movies? Yeah, it's one of those movies, a very coming of age young adult novel. And this at times feels like a young adult novel. If this would have maybe come out in the era of Twilight and the Divergent, all those young stuff that was filled with teen cast dealing with angst and drama and sadness in their tough life, it could have fit in. But in 2020, in a world where all of the things are going insane, this feels so dated at times, and not in the cool nostalgic way. This just feels like it's been on the shelf for way longer than 3 years. Where this movie shines and elevates things like the directing, the script, and the overall vibe of the film is the cast. Everyone is so good. Anya Taylor-Joy, Maisie Williams, Charlie Heaton, Henry Zaga. These are all people that really stood out to me in this film. They all feel like characters we would see in an 80s slasher movie. The way they're dealing with things, the way they're reacting, they all felt like archetypes and tropes of these characters, and not even a bad way. I'm not saying tropes in a way that I'm like, oh god, they're so tired and bored, as I think the plot and the overall vibe is. No, these characters are tropes that we love, but they're so good. Anya Taylor-Joy is a goddamn superstar. She is so good. She's been in films like The Witch. She's also been in The Thoroughbreds. She's a character, an actress I really love, and playing an X-Men character I really love. I like me the X-Men, but mostly just the main team. People like the New Mutants, some of the Deadpool people. That stuff I don't really know, but this is a character that I'm I will go back and research all of you. Her power is so good. I love a good old mutant power. I think some of them are really cool here. I think some of them have been a little, seen it, been there, done that. But there is other people I like in this film too, like Maisie Williams, our awesome Arya Stark from Game of Thrones. She's grown so much. She's also perfect for horror. I want to see her be a scream queen in another young adult style horror film with I don't want to say with a better vibe, because Josh Boone is trying to do something here, but there is just something here that I'm I want to see her in more. And Charlie Heaton's been in Stranger Things and stuff like that, so we know he's pretty competent in that. But I would say, focusing on the Anya Taylor-Joy and Maisie Williams side of this, especially Maisie Williams has a lesbian relationship in this film, and her queer story is so awesome. hinted at pretty early but fully dived into later. This is a pretty feminine, female-led film, and not in a way that I think men won't enjoy this, because I think this works for everyone, but they just have fun female characters that they're at the front of this story, especially after going through some of the X-Men movies, and we had to hear all of that horrible Jennifer Lawrence line of like, we should call it X-Women. This is a movie that it's not someone saying we should call them X-Women. We have a character or a creator like Josh Boone going, let's just make it a badass cool chick story. Like, there's still the men here. Charlie Heaton's character's cool. They're still here and prominent, but these female characters really shine in the world of X-Men, where I think it's been pretty Wolverine dominant, like, you know, and the Charles and like Eric stories and all that. This is cool to see these female characters have a time like to shine in the X-Men universe. Now, my feelings on the direction and style of this film have been pretty clear throughout, but I have to say, Josh Boone knew exactly what the hell he was doing with his style of movie. He had a clear vision, and he executed that vision. In the world of the Snyder Cut, where we're seeing people like studios manipulate like this artist's work, I'm glad he got to see his pure 80s inspired, 90s inspired, horror-ish kind of movie. I do think the horror elements have been kind of thrown to the back a tiny bit, and it feels like a superhero movie at times. With some horror elements, I wanted this to be pure Dream Warriors, give me Nightmare on Elm Street kind of stuff. I wanted that vibe, but I will say he had a vision, and I think this could work for a bit younger of an audience, or people who like those more teen-based dramas. That's my biggest thing, is I'm not a coming-of-age story kind of person, and looking at Boone's work, it seems to be he likes those type of stories. So I do think there's a disconnect there for me personally, but I will admit that it's a vision that's executed well. I can see Disney picking up this director for other work. Hopefully he stops whitewashing characters and admitting he just didn't care about it and whitewashed characters, but that's a whole different story we can get into. Yeah, all the Latino characters, all the Hispanic characters are pretty whitewashed in this movie, and you know, they're usually darker in the comics to how they're depicted on screen. He made a comment about it. I'm not in love with it, but I would say I'm not going to take away from his ability here as a filmmaker, as someone who can craft a story. He crafted something here. Do I personally love it? Do I think it's more than just generic? No, I think it's pretty generic and I don't love it, but I will say it's clear, it's here. That's fine. For a longtime X-Men movie fan like me, to say that this is another fine movie and probably the last from the 20th century banner we'll ever get, it's sad. Like, this is how I felt when I got Dark Phoenix, and I was just like, that's the whimper we're going out on? Now this is the whimper? X-Men fans, look, I would say you will enjoy this for being a fan of the franchise that has started since 2000. The X-Men franchise kicked down the door. We would not have the MCU. We wouldn't even have basically any Marvel movies if it wasn't for what Blade, X-Men, and Spider-Man did in the early 2000s, in the 90s, and stuff like that. So I will say, as a longtime fan, check this out. There's some Easter eggs that like Eagle Eye fans would definitely notice. There's some stuff to enjoy as an X-Men fan. There's stuff here, but the overall movie, when we're looking at it at the grand scheme of things, as the return to cinema, as all of this, as blah, 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 it's just hard to be like, this is anything more than just blah. Alright guys, that was it from my review of New Mutants. I wish I could go into this review with way more positive vibes, but this is it. It's New Mutants. We all kind of expected this. I'm just so surprised this was not dumped on Disney Plus, so a bunch of weird niche fans of X-Men, of horror, of young adult novels can find this and enjoy it. But as a big theater release, oh boy, like between this and Tenet, I just don't know what we're going to do at the movie theaters. Alright guys, what did you think of my review of the New Mutants? Let me know down in the comment below. Subscribe to my channel because I make videos like this every single week. And give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy this video. Alright guys, let's talk about New Mutants down below.